Welcome to the Hobby Jogger Podcast, where elite athletes and ham and eggers lace up their stories. We explore the common ground that running creates, from the world-class runner to the hobbyist hitting the pavement, trail, or treadmill. Expect a blend of inspiration, laughter, and the shared joy that makes every step count. Join us on this journey where every run is a story worth sharing. Our next guest is Brynn Cunningham. She has a plethora of fastest known times around the Pennsylvania area. She's a two-time winner of my favorite race, the Laurel Highlands 50K. She is also a mom, a yogi, and a whitewater kayaker, and I've seen her in action, at least two of those last three. Brynn Cunningham, welcome to Hobby Jogger.
Hi, thanks.
Thanks for coming on the show with your busy schedule. We appreciate it. We also have Nate with us as well. Nate Reyes, our co-host.
Just so excited to have you on, Brynn. Been fun over the years to see you in action, whether it's on the trail, whether it's on the water with the family. You bring it with everything you do. So I'm excited to talk to you, and thanks for being on.
Thanks, Nate. Good to be here.
The first thing I want to ask you about, Brynn, it's something that's kind of it's popular and very popular in trail running. I don't think any other form of running has this fastest known times. I've been checking out the fastestknowntimes.com recently. We have a couple in my area I'd like to attempt. A couple in your area I'd like to attempt as well. How many of those do you currently hold? Do you know?
Oh, yeah, good question. Maybe 10 to 14.
And mostly all located in, we'll say, the southern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, southwest Pennsylvania. I have one in Maryland, and my favorite one is in West Virginia on the North Fork Mountain Trail. My first one was in Maryland, but it's all the tri-state area, so
all within Appalachia.
Yes, all within 2 or 3 hours of my house.
Gotcha. Which is located in Ohiopyle area is where you're from, correct?
Yeah. And a lot of them are local that I got verified. I kind of created the routes and then submitted them, and then they verified them as new routes, which was fun to establish. And I did submit some that did not get, verified. And that was also just fun to see what they would take and what they wouldn't.
That's interesting. Do you know what the exact parameters are for what they will use and what they won't use?
Yeah, it's something like it has to be more than 5 miles. It has to be very popular. Like what is the incline, the Manitou incline, less than 5 miles, but it's a famous route. So of course that's an FKT. I submitted a 5-mile loop close to my house that did not get verified, but I have a handful of most of mine are 10 to 25 miles. I think they look at Strava, which I'm not on Strava, but they look at Strava for routes that are very popular.
And FKT.com does have her IC14 here, if that's correct.
Cool. Sweet. I'll take it.
Great. You have 14 FKTs. That's pretty considerable, especially where a bulk of them seem to be Ohiopyle.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people kind of underestimate how difficult the running is.
Yeah, this is very challenging. I always joke that the rocks move here. So you have to be ready for moving rocks at all times. On average, on my local runs, you gain 150 to 250 feet of elevation per mile, a daily challenge, but I like it.
That's a lot. I mean, you can really get a lot of elevation out there relatively quick. Now, I noticed your name isn't on one in particular, which actually surprised me when I looked at it.
I know the one.
Because people out here talk about it, and I live in Akron, Ohio. So people out here talk about it. I actually go out and run it.
Yes.
I think it's within my range to get.
Let's do it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Here's the thing, and I know people think I'm a big wuss or whatever. I don't feel like I would be comfortable enough sending it without someone out there with me.
Oh, you'd be good.
Yeah, I probably would be, but that first big downhill that's just super steep, coming down the 2 mile, I don't, I before we started this, I actually looked at my times out there running gate to 8 and back.
Okay. So what is the current males record?
The current male record is 250, held by Ian Voice.
Okay. I don't know that name, but well, that's pretty good.
I may have missed this. Don't keep the audience in suspense. Which trail are we talking about?
Nate, this is the Laurel Highlands, and they call it gate to 8. So you run from the trailhead. So your hand is on the gate.
Yeah.
Where you start on the Laurel Highlands, and then you run to mile marker 8 and back. And I think it's something like 3,000 feet of climbing or 2,500 feet of climbing. I know going to mile marker 11 is 3,200. So it's probably about 2,000 feet of climbing just in the first 8 miles, not counting like what you would kind of climb up. And then you run back down. So honestly, Casey, it's not a run that I can say I have ever done.
Really?
Yes, which is crazy.
What you've run gate to 8 in the Laurel Highlands.
Yeah, but I don't turn around because we live so close. I will often just do point to point, and my husband can pick me up. So I'd rather run 0 to 11 or 0 to 15 and get picked up. But once I saw that gate 8 was an FKT, which I think it became an FKT last year, it's fairly new. I thought, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do it, because the time to beat is not, for the female record anyways, the time to beat, I'm pretty sure that I could.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of confidence that you would beat that time. It looks to be 4 hours and 56 minutes set by Julia Martin.
Yeah, so I did. I actually, so it's funny because I wrote this on my 2024 kind of running goals. But the thing is, I don't have Strava, and now the FKT site encourages you to look at the Queen and King of the Mountain record.
Oh.
To compare to the FKT record. And if someone on Strava has that record, then it's something like a courtesy to, I don't know if you have to reach out to them or try to beat that time, because it's not a fastest known time if you don't beat what's also on Strava. So I need some Strava people to tell me what those records are, because I might just be totally out.
Yeah. No, well, I guess I didn't think, like, I do use Strava. I am a Strava user. I guess I didn't really think of that, which I guess I should have, because that would be a known time.
It is. So I do help out, or I'm kind of part of the Women Who FKT, which was started by Marta Smith out in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm on their newsletters and helped them edit some stuff on their website. And they've outlined those parameters. And I wasn't aware of that when I started doing FKTs. It was before COVID hit. And then once COVID hit, FKTs skyrocketed for obvious reasons. So lots of new regulations came about with the influx of FKTs. They grew something like, I don't know, 200% or 500%. I'm just throwing that out there, but it was a massive growth of FKT records.
Which is good. I mean, it gets people out, and it shows interest in, I think, a little bit different side of the sport, which is kind of going out there and doing it on your own. And
yeah, I think it's great. I love it because the first time I heard about FKTs was through Scott York's Appalachian Trail, running south to north. And I thought that fastest known times were really just for those long trails like the PCT and the AT, and even just the long trail in Vermont, until my sister sent me a link to a magazine article about a group of runners in West Virginia who established a new FKT on the North Fork Mountain Trail. And when I opened it, I saw that it was only 24 miles, and my whole world changed. I didn't know that an FKT could be that short. And my sister said, you need to do this. And I said, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do this. And it took maybe a year or two for me to get to West Virginia to run the North Fork Mountain Trail. In the meantime, I had done, my first one was 17 miles on a trail that had 203 down trees, and it was not the wonderful experience I was hoping for. But I did it, and I do want to go back on the Big Savage Mountain Trail to beat my time, because a friend of mine actually became like involved in that trail and cleared all of the trees. So I'd like to go back to run without 200 trees in 17 miles in my way. But anyways, I went to the North Fork Mountain Trail a couple years ago, and I was finally able to do the first FKT that inspired me to look into those.
That's awesome. And actually, you helped me find new trails to run out there.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, there's the Bauman Trail.
Oh, Bachman.
Bachman, sorry, mispronunciation,
It's like, I call it the sister of the Laurel Highlands because they're right across the river from one another. Like the overlooks are kind of looking at each other.
Yep.
Cool.
So, yep, found that one and the Sugarloaf Trail, which is also an Ohiopyle.
Oh, that's awesome. And that was one of my inspirations for doing it. The FKTs I established locally were these sort of must-do routes. Like the Bear Run Black Loop is a 12-mile loop on a beautiful single track. The Quebec Outer Loop is about 11 miles. So when people are going to new areas, they can find those on FKT if they're not on an app. You don't have to be on an app to look at the fastest known time website.
Well, Brynn, I was just thinking, like, FKTs aside, you were already a legend prior to any of that stuff coming out. And I want to hear a little bit about how you became Brynn the legend.
No, I don't know if I'm a legend. Don't you have to be dead to be a legend?
I don't know anything about this legend story, so I would like to hear it.
No, I don't either.
I don't know. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think, everywhere I go in Ohiopyle, I think everyone knows about Brynn Cunningham. And it's just a really cool experience to see like how much you get involved in the community and with your groups of folks that you hang out with. And you still strive as an individual, push yourself, make yourself kind of your own competitor. That's the way I look at it. I've noticed you in the short time that I've known you, just always push yourself to new limits. So where was the genesis of that?
I guess I grew up in Ohiopyle. I'll start from there. Actually, I'll start way back. The first settlers in Ohiopyle were my ancestors. The Thorpe Knob Overlook. Casey, you may have heard about the Thorpe Knob Overlook. That was named after family on my mom's side. And then the Cunninghams on my dad's side came in the 1700s, and their homestead was where the Laurel Highlands hiking trail now is. That's where their property is, and they're buried in a cemetery that butts up against that state park property. And Francis Cunningham got a Medal of Honor in the 1700s for capturing a flag from the Confederates and winning a battle for the Union, and he's buried just down the road from where we live. So I think just, having family. So I'm something like 8th generation Ohiopylian. And I never thought that I would come back here to build a family. Ohiopyle, when I was 18, I lived just one block from the community center. I call it downtown Ohiopyle, which is funny because it's just a few blocks, but it gets 2 million visitors a year because of the whitewater and falling water. So I left Ohiopyle for a decade. I lived in Southern California and even places like Vegas and Georgia and South Carolina. And most of my time was spent in Southern California, but I traveled all over Washington State and Oregon. And finally, my husband, which we weren't married at the time, but we went to New Zealand where we lived for 3 months, and we had zero direction in our lives besides whitewater kayaking. And when we had nowhere that we knew we were going, I realized that my hometown actually offered everything that we wanted. We could whitewater kayak in class 4 and 5 every day. The trails were at our doorstep. So I said we could go back to where I grew up.
I know, like, at least you're a little bit of a legend, because I walked into, I want to say it was like the general store in Ohiopyle.
Falls Market.
Yeah. And there's an advertisement for one of your yoga classes there.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, hey, I know her. And so I felt really cool. I was like, yeah, I know the local yogi here, Brynn. Yeah, she's cool, isn't she? So yeah, you are a legend in at least that regard. So Nate is correct.
I couldn't be happier teaching right in downtown Ohiopyle and having all the same yoga students who I was doing yoga next to for so many years. Yeah, just down the mountain. But yeah, Nate, I started running when I was 11.
Well, I do appreciate the story, and I think I'm interested in like when you found out you're fast. How do
Oh,
you
there you go.
find that out?
Yeah, I found that out when I was 11 years old. My fifth grade my fifth grade teacher took the class outside, and he said, we're going to train for the fifth grade track meet. And he just had us line up and race. And I beat everybody, and it wasn't a challenge. And I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. And I was terribly shy. I was so shy. But when I found out that I had this strength, it opened up so many connections and relationships, and just it's definitely brought me out of my shell. So then the fifth grade track meet happened, and I was in 6 events. After winning 5 of them, on the 6th race, this was like the shy person coming out of me. I felt bad, and I turned around during the race to let the person behind me pass me because I felt bad about winning 5 trophies in a row, and I was about to win 6. So I turned around and slowed down and let the girl beat me. And then afterward, I was like, that was so dumb. No one wants to win like that, and no one wants to lose like that. So that was pretty much, that was the last time I ever did anything like that.
Talk about sports psychology. That's an internal struggle that I wish that I had, but I don't.
I did. I felt bad. And then junior high I ran. We didn't have uniforms or anything like that, and it was so much fun. I think I won every meet. So I would run the 100 meter, the 200 meter, and maybe I don't know if they had like a 50 meter in junior high. But in high school, I ran 100, 200, and 4x100. I was strictly a sprinter, and I loved it. And so when I got to high school, there were much faster girls, and we had this really fun sprint squad. And my team broke the 4x100 relay in our freshman year, and we called ourselves the double stuffed Oreo because it was me, a white girl, and 2 black girls on the lead and the anchor. We had so much fun. And then in my junior year, I had a really bad season. I became a vegetarian, and I'm not saying anything bad about vegetarianism, but this was like 1999, and I had no idea how to do that well. And I became anemic and deficient in B vitamins, and I could hardly finish a race. It was awful. I didn't have Google to look up what to eat. Like, I didn't know a single vegetarian. So
how did you take that then? Because you don't see a lot of sprinter backgrounds in the ultra world, the trail running world. It's usually cross country guys, 5K, which I guess would be cross country. I don't think there's really an outdoor or a track distance other than the mile. Outside of the mile, I don't think there's a 2 mile. Maybe there is. That's kind of a big jump in distance to go from 400 meters to a 50K. So how did you decide, oh, hey, this looks fun. I'm gonna just go out there and rip it through the Laurel Highlands. How do you just woke up one day and said, hey, I'm gonna go do this?
No, it was a long development. So I guess it started in high school, actually, without me really realizing it. So I would run the same trails that I do today. So I went one day and I ran with a cross country team, and we were on this bypass, and it was terrible. It wasn't what I did in the woods. I would run in the woods. I would drink out of a stream. I would like stop and sit on a rock and meditate, and then I'd run back. And I didn't know until I got a GPS watch in my adulthood that I was running 6 to 8 miles as a teenager. I just I just thought of it as spending time in the woods. So even though I claimed I was just a sprinter, I was doing these long days in the woods. I didn't even have a watch to know what time it was. So yeah, so I graduated high school and then college happened, and you don't really find races as an adult that are shorter than 5K.
Hey folks, if you're loving the stories, tips, and laughs we're dishing out, make sure you don't miss an episode. Hit that subscribe button so you're the first to know when a new episode drops. And hey, if you've got a second, why not leave us a review? Your feedback helps us improve and keeps this running community growing. Lace up, hit subscribe, and let's get back into the show. No, that's one thing you can definitely say there's not is I guess there's like a circuit of people that do it, like they have like these meets at tracks for adults, I guess, around here.
Right, but not for like the general population like us. So I just started running in my 20s. So college was like a big party fest fun. I was recruited to run on the track team, do other stuff. So college, but the day after I graduated college, I started running again. I drove to Las Vegas with my best friend, and we were staying in an apartment, and I just went out for a run. And then from that day forward, I just started running no matter where I lived, and eventually signed up for a 5K in my mid-20s or so.
And speaking of 5Ks, not to change the subject there because it's a good one. The race that goes up to Summit, before I forget, the race that goes up to the Summit.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a 5K?
It's 3.5.
Okay.
So just a little more. Which, do you want to come and do it this year? Have you done it?
Well, I have. What's it called?
The Mount Summit Challenge. I'll send you the registration form.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And you can't sign up online. You have to mail them a check or just pay that day.
Oh, it's one of those types of races where it's like secret.
Yes, it is.
Casey, it's how legends are made, okay?
It is how legends are made.
They literally will like advertise it in the local newspaper.
Now, have you won that race?
I have won the summit 4 times.
Four-time champion.
Well, Brynn, I look at you on Instagram and just see all this cool, fun stuff that you do day to day. Let's go ahead and have you list what your handles are there on social media. Would you mind?
Oh, yeah. At Brynn, BRYNN _ Cunningham. So it's just my first and last name. On Instagram, on Facebook, Brynn Cunningham. I do have my yoga is inhale, exhale, run, where I put my yoga schedule up. And that's pretty much all I do with inhale, exhale, run, because I post everything on my social.
When I view that, I see you're a multi-sport type of a athlete. You're a mountain biker. You're on the kayak. You're doing yoga by the side of the river. You have your running club, which we haven't even got to yet.
Oh yeah.
We see this, and it seems like a fun life, but underneath, we've got to figure that there's some discipline in there, and that's amazing to think that you have time to do that. How does the discipline, eating, training, family life, how does that work out for you? Where does that support system come from as well?
Oh, my husband is a huge supporter, especially for races and traveling. He's always happy for, crewing or anything like that. Gosh, I couldn't do half of what I do without him. That's for sure. But we're a lot alike. So we met kayaking, and if we have an opportunity to be without the kids, then that's what we're doing. We're kayaking, or we're mountain biking, or we're backpacking, or I'm talking him into fast packing. And he's always game. But we also involve our kids and a lot of what we do. We went on a backpacking trip on New Year's Eve in the snow with the kids. It was almost 7 miles, and they're 6 and 10. They loved it. It was, it's just our lifestyle. Like I said, Ohiopyle, I'm not going very far to do the activities that I love. I can either run from my house to the single track. I can bike from my house. But if I'm driving, then I'm driving 5 to 10 minutes. For me to drive far to a trail is 15 minutes. And we moved here, even before we had kids because of the whitewater. And that's just right down the hill. So yeah, the discipline, I think that one of my strengths is just having a lot of energy. And over the years, I've learned where to put the energy and where to apply it. And athletics is one of them. For me to run 6 or 7 days a week, I need the variety. I want to be on my mountain bike. I want to spend time with friends who mountain bike that might not trail run. I want to be on the water with my friends and family in a kayak. My husband's the Youghiogheny River keeper. So, we're always on the water. It's part of his job now, ensuring the cleanliness of the waterways. And I'm lucky enough to work 3 amazing jobs that I work from home. I work for a local outfitters that does bike tour vacations, and I teach yoga, which is very flexible, but a lot of discipline. I wake up every day early and I either get on the mat to do yoga, or that's when I do most of my weightlifting at my house. I'm not driving to a gym to do these things with kids. Nate, you have kids, like all that changed. I wasn't driving to do yoga at studios. It all happens from home. So for me to have a home base that's by the water and by the trails, it makes it a little easier to be disciplined. However, it also makes it a little bit like living in like Neverland.
Interesting. It's interesting that you say that. And go into that a little bit more.
There's always something to do. If you get caught up in it, and I think kids obviously will like pull you out of that and ground you because there's just not enough space. But if you get caught up in it, you don't ever have to leave the mountains or come down to reality. You're just in the woods all day doing what you love. And that's great. I definitely went through phases of life like that. So that's kind of like the Neverland analogy. We're raising our kids here, and I think there's value in that too, and just being outside and not even teaching, but showing them how to be environmentally conscious and involved in the community, and not just doing these things for ourselves, but being involved in the community. Like I took I'm on the Laurel Highlands hiking trail volunteer crew, and a lot of that work I do on my own, but I took my kids and we had a 3.5-hour work day, and I showed them how to use hand saws and how to move trees off of the trail, and explained why that was important, because backpackers are coming up with heavy packs. They don't want to step over the trail. I'm trying to run this stretch and there's 11 trees in my way, and we live right here, so why not just do it? Or being on the river and picking up trash. So it's going beyond our personal passions of, I want to go whitewater kayak so I can surf this wave. And that's true. But let's look beyond that and think about the community and the planet a little more, and maybe pick up some trash and talk about why we don't stack rocks in the middle of streams because it's bad for the aquatic life, and why we don't decorate Christmas trees on the public lands and never take them down. And so, showing the kids just through the way we live and in this very outdoor activity oriented place.
But I would like to thank you for the volunteer work that you and the trail group do out there. So by the time I get to go out there and run in April, it's clear, it's perhaps new steps have been built like they were this year. So you guys do a lot of great work out there. And I know it's something that's very important in the trail running community that, people do volunteer, which is something I need to work on here locally. But I do have a parks department that does all of that for me for some reason. They, help the trails. But I do think that's very important. And I personally thank you guys for that work that you do out there, because it does make a much better running experience. And the trails out there, they're wild, they're rocky, they're rooty, but the stream crossings are taken care of. You guys have built crossings over all the streams.
Yeah.
So we don't have to go down into the bottom of the very bottom of the canyon. We're going to go across the streams. Yeah, you guys have done a great job out there. Like I said earlier, some of the best trails there are to run anywhere is out in the Laurel Highlands area. And I feel like a big part of that is your volunteer group. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, I feel like it's a responsibility. It's like I couldn't just be here and do all these activities without taking care of what we're treading on. And the same for we have an Ohiopyle biking club. It's all the mountain bikers, and we do the same thing. And we text each other. I don't have the chainsaw. I have a handsaw. If I see one that requires a chainsaw, I text the guys in the biking club, and it's the trails across from the Laurel Highlands, but they're just as used and just as amazing as the Laurel Highlands. Yeah, so it's like we are putting our footprint on these trails. Is mountain biking the best thing for the terrain? Well, sometimes no, and we're building new trails, and I love it. But sometimes I'm thinking, do we need to do that? Do we know what habitats? Even if it's just like some type of bug or something, we're just digging up trails. I don't know. Maybe there's like a little bit of that, like guilt that comes with, are we doing enough for the earth that we're using to do all of the fun things that we do? We're trail running and it's so fun. We're mountain biking, kayaking, and it's so fun, but we have to think beyond that.
That's a very good point. And I feel like for the sport that we participate in, whether it's FKTs, whether it's just going out in the woods and running, we do need to be responsible for whether it's just conserving, maybe reducing your use of one. And I'm not trying to be preachy, but it's something I certainly try and do.
It's hard to talk about it without being preachy, but I mean, the truth is, like, I'm not always great at recycling, but like, are things actually getting recycled? I don't know, but I'll pick up a piece of trash if I.
And I think that's the simplest way to help. Nothing makes me more angry than running either my local trails, maybe the weekend after, say like Buckeye 50K, and you see like goo wrappers.
Oh yeah.
In the trail. Like, you're supposed to be the ones that don't do this. You're not supposed to be the ones that are contributing to the garbage. And I don't think, and again, it's not preaching, it's just common sense of, if you want to use this, you need to, at the bare minimum, clean up for yourself. Like, don't leave stuff. Make sure if you bring 4 in, 4 come out with you. What you pack in, you pack out.
Right.
I think that needs to be, said a little bit louder by maybe some of the RDs and the people around it, because people like you do put a lot of time and effort into the trails, into cleaning up around that area. You shouldn't have to also go up and clean up after, when the Laurel Highlands Ultra comes through. There should be no wrappers left.
I have never seen a wrapper on the Laurel Highlands.
You have or haven't?
I have not. That's not
good.
They're not there. But
yeah.
Maybe because after I run the Laurel Highlands, I'm just not going out there for a week or two.
Yeah. But, and I get mistakes happen. Not everyone's perfect. You thought you put it in your pack. I very well may have been guilty of that. But if I see one, I also certainly pick it up and throw it in the top and drop it off with the rest of my garbage when I'm done. I think that's a pretty simple thing we could all do to at least help out.
And I think it's okay to be in that struggle, Brynn, where you're at, where you don't know. And how can you know unless you're out there? Do you want to protect it? Well, you haven't been out in the trail long enough. You wouldn't ever see how beautiful the land is and know what its real value is. And the passion that we have as trail runners is that it might take a few years till you get that passion and that understanding. And then admitting that you struggle with, what are we doing out here? Really, are we out here doing good or not? And so it's okay to, I believe, live in that realm where your thought process is still there. So
thanks. Yeah, I agree. It's also, Ohiopyle is so tourist centered. We want people here. We don't want people here. It's like, and yeah, but then when you think, very, very locally and very close, I want to share the trails with people. I want to show them how to get around safely. I want them to get to know the trails so they can be out here by themselves. Like with the women that I run with, it's like I wanted to bring as many women as I could to show them the trails, even though it might be like a little bit contradictory to there's too many people in this town. But then I'm like, well, my people can come. But, you know, I don't know. It's like this internal conflict. But in the end, I think it's doing good. It's like my goal with the Trail Run Tribe was to show women how to get around the woods by themselves and to help them feel safe in the woods. And if that's bringing them here and taking them on all the trails that I know, you know, if it takes that to do that, then so be it. You know, it's empowering for them. And now all of them can run on a trail without being led, which is amazing.
Now, you mentioned that you're talking about the Trail Tribe Girl. Well, what exactly is that?
Oh, I guess in 2017. Yeah. So I had my second boy. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have one boy, a second boy, and then a husband. I need to be around women. So 2 months after my second son, I texted everyone I know, everyone I knew, every woman, and invited them to come run on a very short trail in Ohiopyle. And I told them I wanted to start a trail running club. 13 women showed up the first day, and that was June 4th, 2017. And we've been running together since. We've never canceled. We've never had 0 people show up.
That's awesome. You've started something good, something that gives back, and also part of a group that volunteers and does time. So you're also putting in the community service work on top of, as Nate said, the superhuman stuff you also do. So that's
well, they're
you do quite a lot, Brynn.
Oh, they're some of my best friends.
And you've also won some hardware. The group has, correct? Didn't you guys win the Laurel Highlands relay, I believe?
Yeah, definitely. We always have relay teams, and I don't even remember which groups win. I know, like, I know we've won different relays, but I can't remember who or what years.
I know the Trail Tribe girls have definitely won at least one of the times I've been there.
Oh, you know what we did win that we were very proud of was a Ragnar trail. Do you know what the Ragnar?
Which one? It's like a collection of races, correct?
Yeah, it's all over the country. So we did Ragnar Appalachia.
Okay.
In West Virginia in 2018. It was the worst. No, it was awesome. But we were up for 48 hours. It was crazy.
Oh, geez.
No, you're not sleeping. You're running like 3 different times. And I had my youngest son that I was still breastfeeding. My husband was like bringing him in. And it was just, it was like the best and the worst experience. But we did end up winning that. And we were very excited.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Brynn, for all the work you've done in the past and you continue to do with the WeViews website. Your willingness to be, transparent about the use of equipment and clothing and nutrition and recovery, all those things, so helpful to so many people. And I want to bring that up because it doesn't go unnoticed, the amount of variety that we've seen, through some of your articles and the testing that you do. And I feel like people can trust that opinion. And that's been a tremendous help.
Thanks, Nate. I love writing for WeViews and getting to know you guys over the past year or 2 or 2 years, I guess.
I think it's been, 2 years since I've met you anyway, but yeah, I do thank you. And I thank you for your time tonight, especially. And again, thanks for the volunteer work that you do out there to make some of the best trails around always runnable. To the people that are listening, if you get a chance, you like running trails, Gate to 8, which we've referenced several times here, is probably one of the most legendary. I think it's definitely the toughest 7 miles of trail I've run on a trail, 7-mile section. And if you're looking for a good test, head out there to Ohiopyle, Pennsylvania, Brynn's hometown and current residence.
Oh, Ohiopyle's great. Thank you guys. It was fun.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Hobby Jogger. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. And if you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support keeps us moving forward. Until next time, keep those feet moving and enjoy the mile.